Hello everyone, this is Aaron Johnson with the Johnson iRacing team, bringing you our weekly performance update at the end of week number 9 during season 4 of the 2020 iRacing year. This week the cars were at the Charlotte Motor Speedway at the 1.5 mile track. That was the street stocks, a big drafting track, lots of opportunity to run in tight packs and have big wrecks. And the Legends cars were at USA International, the 3/4 mile speedway in Lakeland, Florida that no longer exists, but thanks to the magic of iRacing, we can continue to enjoy competition at USA International Speedway. This week, the Johnson iRacing team had a pretty good week. We struggled in some phases. We were fairly successful in others. This was also the 9th week, so as of this week, drivers that have run at least 9 races begin to be allowed to drop their lowest point total. So iRacing is going to take our best 8 weeks. And if you're like Jake, who had missed a week, then once we get to week number 9, you drop a 0. So we should see a fair amount of movement in terms of where people are placing simply because they're getting to drop zeros, and that's going to move them around quite a bit in the standings. Let's hop right in. We'll start out talking about Jake Johnson. Jake had a pretty decent week. He raised his I rating to 1742. That's the highest his I rating has ever been. So Jake set a new personal high for I rating. And just as a reminder, I rating is the way that iRacing tries to rate your skill as a driver. The higher your I rating, the more often you finish up front, the more often you beat other drivers, the more I rating points you gain. What that means then is that you would be consistently doing better and better and better as your I rating goes up. So Jake had a really good week. He started 9 races this week. He had 2 wins, 4 top 5 finishes, and he didn't have any poles. Both of his wins were at the big track at Charlotte. He tends to do really well in a draft, and that showed up here as Jake scored 96 points, which is the highest number of points he's scored in street stocks to date. Where is Jake in terms of his overall performance? Well, in the Street Stock Series, Jake moved all the way up to 269th of 16,579 drivers who have run at least one points-paying race in the Fanatec Street Stock Rookie Series. That puts Jake inside the top 1.75% of all drivers. So Jake currently maybe in the top 2 out of every 100 drivers that you might pick at random. Jake's doing really, really well in the Street Stock Series. In the Legends Series, Jake is in Group or Division 4. You can think of this again as iRating sorting all the drivers by iRating or iRacing. So iRacing sorts everybody by iRating. The highest rated drivers are in Division 1. The lowest rated drivers are in Division 10. Jake is in Division 4. And in Division 4 right now, he is currently 26th of about 1,166 drivers in that division. Jake's right on the verge of moving into the top 25 there. Overall in the series, in the Advanced Legend Cup Series, Jake is 163rd out of 13,559 drivers that have attempted at least one points-paying race. That puts Jake inside the top 0.75% and really gets him pretty close to the top 0.5%. So somewhere in the top 5 or 6 drivers out of every 1,000 that you might select at random. Overall, in the Legends Cup, Jake's done really well. He has 36 total starts. He's got 7 wins, 15 top 5s, and 7 poles. Average starts about 8th, average finish is 6th. So Jake's doing really well. Keep in mind here that his number of top 5s is not quite half. 50% is kind of a goal that we set, I think, to see if you're performing really well in iRacing, and Jake's almost there. He's at more like, 40 and change, just a little over 40%. So he's closing in on that 50% number that we really look for. What about Joe? Joe raised his I rating to 2,030. So his I rating is just up just a little bit. It was, I think, at 2002 last time around. Joe didn't run a lot of races this week. He had kind of a tough week. He only ran 4 races, didn't have any wins, no top 5s, and no poles. And that's because he's now in this top split, the very best drivers that are online at the time. Joe's going to be racing against those guys. And what that really means then is you're going to race against guys like Matt Coker, who is number 1 in the world right now in the Legends Series. You're going to race against AJP Plemons, who's in the top 15. You're going to run against Trent Newton, who doesn't race every week, is a few weeks short, and still runs in the top 50. So Mark Frimpong, one of the fastest drivers I think I've ever seen in iRacing. So you're going to race against great drivers, and it's going to be really, really hard to score those top fives. So I think Joe's he's to that point now, and the next thing for Joe is to start jumping up and scoring those top fives in this top group. Let's see how he's doing overall. He didn't race at all in the street stocks this week. And what that means is that Joe's point total continues to fall. He's dropped to 21.18. He's only run 5 of the 8 weeks, and he's still in the top 13% of all drivers. So Jake's about 2,118th out of 16,579 drivers that have attempted at least one points-paying race. Overall, he's got 18 starts. He's only got one top 5. He's got no wins. But I think, that's to be expected. He's not really focusing on the street stock series at all. Joe is really focused on racing in the Legends Cup. In the Legends Cup, he's in Division 5, and in Division 5, he's a solid second place. He's got an 18-point lead over David Applegate, who right now is in third in Division 5. Joe's doing very, very well here. He's got 42 starts, 2 wins, 20 top 5, so he's just on the outside of that 50% goal that we set for ourselves. He's been on the pole 3 times, and his average start and finish are 6th, which puts him just above the midpoint of the pack. Most of the time, the minimum number of drivers you're going to run with is probably 12. Occasionally, you might run with 11, but more often, there are going to be 13 or 14 drivers in any iRacing feature event. Joe's in the top half of those, so he's doing really, really well. Again, he's second, and that's out of 1,012 drivers, so Joe's doing great in Division 4. Overall in the series, Joe is 70th out of 13,559 drivers who have attempted at least one points-paying race. That puts Joe in the top 0.75%, maybe the top 0.5% of all people who've attempted a race. So if you were to select 1,000 people at random, Joe is, he's going to be one of the top 4 or 5 drivers that you pick. So he's doing really, really well. The third member of the team, Aaron Johnson, that's me. I had an okay week. My iRating actually dropped just a touch. I dropped down to 2688 still. It's the first time I've ever kept my iRating over 2,500 for 2 weeks in a row, so I'm very happy with that. It was a tough week. I had 10 starts. I didn't have any wins. I had 4 top 5s, and I didn't have any poles. And I did run 3 races in the Advanced Legends C Cup. And so, not the Advanced Legends, the iRacing Street Stock Fixed Division, so Division C. You're allowed to run 4 of those before you have to move up a division. So I decided to run 3, kind of use up my rookie allotment. And I did okay there. The competition is fierce. A lot of really great drivers there. But I was able to, I think, hold my own. If we look overall, though, I'm doing very well in both the Street Stock and the Advanced Legends Cup series because I'm taking both of those series pretty seriously. So in the street stocks right now, I've moved up to 12th overall out of 16,579. My goal for myself in this series is to stay inside the top 25 to finish on the front page. And right now I've been able to do that. Being 12th out of 16,579 puts me inside the top 0.1%, which means if we were to pick 1,000 drivers at random and include me in the sample, I'm going to be the top guy in that sample almost every time. Not every time, but almost. So I'm doing really well there. I have 35 starts. I've got 2 wins, 11 top 5s. My average start is 7th. Average finish is 8th. Now keep in mind in this series, it's not uncommon to have 18 drivers. So 7th or 8th starting and finishing spots inside the top half. In the Legends cars, I'm not doing quite as well. It's a lot more competitive. Right now I am in division number 9. I am leading my division by a little over 400 points. That margin shrank just a little bit this week because Anthony Sciarillo was able to drop his lowest score, and his lowest score gained him more points than me dropping my lowest score did. So I'm still doing pretty well here in the Advanced Legends Cup, and overall I'm 39th out of 13,559 drivers who have attempted at least one points-paying race. That puts me inside the top 0.3% of all drivers in the world who've attempted to race in the Advanced Legends Cup. Overall, I've got 52 starts, 12 wins. Most of those came early when my iRating was still suffering. 30 top 5s, 11 poles. My average start and average finish about 5th place. So inside the top half with average start and average finish. The big thing here is the top 5 percentage is over 50%, and that's really a goal I think that, at least at the Johnson iRacing team, we set for ourselves. The idea is if you can finish in the top 5 half the time, you're going to do really well overall, no matter what series you're in. For these entry-level series, once we start to move up into Class C racing or Class B racing or Class A racing, we're going to have to modify those expectations because the competition is going to become more fierce and the fields are going to get bigger. In a couple of the Class C races that I raced this week, there were 22 cars in that field. So a 9th place finish in a 22-car field is very different than a 9th place finish in a 12-car field. Overall, the Johnson iRacing team had a pretty good week. In total, we ran 23 races, had a couple of wins, had 8 top 5s out of those 23 races, and pretty much improved our position across the board in the series in which we are actively competing with an eye toward finish as high as we can in the points. I think as we get closer to the end of the season here, we're seeing some really good performance. All of our drivers are inside the top 175 in the Advanced Legends Cup. What I anticipate for us is that we're going to set a goal to be, at the end of the season, all 3 of us inside the top 150. And in the street stocks, Joe really isn't racing street stocks seriously right now. He's focusing on the Legends Cup. But if you take Joe out of the equation, Jake and I are both inside the top 300. I think a good goal for us would be for me to finish on the front page, stay inside the top 25, and for Jake to finish inside the top 250. If he can move inside the top 250, I think we will consider that a really good season for the Johnson iRacing team. As always, if you think the Johnson iRacing team might be for you and you're interested in becoming a part of our team, a few things you should know. 1, we share everything. So don't come into the team thinking you're going to hold anything back. We share setups, we share tips, tricks, ideas, qualifying lines, paint schemes. Anything that we build is freely available to any other team member. We want you to be successful. 2, we try to do things the right way. That means taking responsibility when you cause an incident. It happens. You're racing hard. In racing, it's not if you crash, it's when. And if you make a mistake, you just own it and go on. And 3, we try to be aware of what we say on the radio. Every once in a while, you're going to get wound up, you're going to drop a bomb, but we put a lot of this stuff out on YouTube, and we want a lot of these races to be visible. So we do the very best we can to make sure that what we say on the radio is, kid appropriate, so that any kid that might happen to be watching doesn't get a surprise. If you think that the Johnson iRacing team is for you, my handle on iRacing is Aaron Johnson 14. Look me up in the search bar right here. You'll get an opportunity when you see my name to send me a private message, and you can see that here on Joe's profile. If we scroll up, you can see right here where it says send message. You can send me a PM, tell me you're interested in being a part of the Johnson iRacing team, and we'll see if we can't make that happen. That's it for week number 9. 3 weeks to go. The season is 75% of the way over, and I think we're doing well. I hope you enjoy our video. Please give us a like, share our video, subscribe to our channel. For the Johnson iRacing team on the Johnson iRacing Network, this is Aaron Johnson saying, go fast, turn left, have fun.